my name is No and I am 62 years old. At this stage of life, a man begins to understand that the most valuable things in the world are not money, houses, or even vacations. The most valuable thing is respect. But I learned that lesson in a painful way, on the day my daughter-in-law took the cruise tickets that I had paid for. And what happened after that changed our entire family forever. The dream I carried for years. For nearly 4 decades, I worked as a mechanic in a small repair shop. The shop smelled of oil, metal, and burnt rubber. My hands were always rough and stained black, and my back ached after every long day. But I never complained. Because every time I felt tired, I reminded myself why I was working so hard. My son, Daniel. After my wife passed away when Daniel was 12, it became just the two of us. I had to become both father and mother to him. I cooked dinner, helped him with homework, and sometimes stayed awake at night worrying about whether I was doing enough. There were days when money was tight. I skipped meals sometimes so Daniel could have everything he needed. But seeing him grow into a strong young man made every sacrifice worth it. When Daniel finally got married, I thought life was rewarding me. His wife Claire was beautiful, confident, and very outspoken. At first, I welcomed her with open arms. I wanted her to feel like she had gained a father, not just a father-in-law. But over the years, something about her attitude slowly began to bother me. She rarely said thank you. She expected things. And sometimes, she treated me like I was just an old man who should stay out of the way. Still, I tried to ignore it. Because family is family. The surprise I was so proud of. For many years I had a small dream. A simple one. I wanted to go on a cruise ship at least once before I got too old to travel. To watch the ocean stretch endlessly in front of me. To feel the sea breeze on my face. To sit peacefully on a deck chair and finally relax after a lifetime of hard work. One evening while browsing online, I saw an advertisement for a 7-day Caribbean cruise. Beautiful blue water. White beaches. Sunsets over the ocean. For a moment, I imagined sharing that experience with my son. And suddenly, an idea formed in my mind. Why not make it a family trip? I spent 2 weeks researching everything carefully. I compared prices, cabins, and dates. Finally, I used a portion of my retirement savings and bought 3 tickets. One for me. One for Daniel. And one for Claire. It cost more money than I had ever spent on something for myself. But I felt happy. Because I believed this trip would create beautiful memories for our family. The dinner invitation. That evening I called Daniel. Son, I said warmly, why don't you and Claire come over for dinner tonight? I have something to show you. He sounded curious. Sure, Dad will be there. I cooked Daniel's favorite meal, roast chicken with mashed potatoes. When they arrived, Claire walked in first, looking around my modest house as if she were visiting a museum of old furniture. So, she said, crossing her arms, what's the surprise? I smiled and handed Daniel an envelope. Open it. He pulled out the papers and stared at them. Then his eyes widened. Dad, is this real? I laughed. Yes, son, a cruise trip for all of us. For a brief moment, Daniel looked like the little boy who used to run into my arms after school. Dad, this is amazing. But Claire simply leaned forward and glanced at the tickets. Oh, she said casually, nice. That was it. No excitement. No gratitude. Just nice. Something in my chest felt strange. But I pushed the feeling away. Maybe she was just surprised. The phone call that hurt. The next morning my phone rang. It was Claire. Hello, no, she said in a cold tone. I need the cruise tickets. I frowned. What for? Well, she said impatiently, Daniel and I want to upgrade our cabin. I'll handle everything. I replied calmly, the cabins are already booked. They're right next to each other. There was a short pause. Then she said something that shocked me. Well, actually, Daniel and I talked last night. My stomach tightened. And we think it would be better if Daniel and I go alone. For a moment, I thought I had heard her wrong. Excuse me. She sighed as if explaining something obvious. You're older, no? Cruises involve a lot of activities, walking, dancing, parties, excursions. You probably wouldn't enjoy it. I sat there in silence. Finally I said quietly, "I paid for that trip." "Yes," she replied quickly, "and that's very generous of you." Then she said the words that cut deep into my heart. "So just give us the tickets." The loneliest afternoon. After the call ended, I sat in my living room staring at the tickets on the table. The house felt unusually quiet. My mind began replaying memories from the past. Daniel's first bicycle. His graduation day. The nights I stayed up fixing cars late into the evening so he could attend college. And now, the family I had sacrificed so much for was pushing me aside. Not because they needed the trip, but because they didn't want me there. Later that day Daniel called. "Dad, Claire said you're upset." I took a deep breath. "Are you planning to go on the cruise without me?" There was a long silence. Finally he said softly, "Dad, Claire thinks it would be better." Those words hurt more than anything Claire had said. Because they came from my own son. The quiet decision. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the cruise. Not the beaches. Not the ocean. But the way my daughter-in-law had spoken to me. Like I was in the way. Then suddenly I remembered something. The booking confirmation. It mentioned free cancellation within 24 hours. Slowly I picked up my phone. My hands were calm. My voice was steady. "Hello," the customer service agent answered. "My name is No," I said. "I'd like to cancel my cruise booking." The agent asked for my reservation number. A few minutes later she said, "Your refund has been processed." Just like that. The trip was gone. But strangely, the heavy feeling in my chest disappeared too. The explosion. 2 days later my phone rang again. Claire sounded furious. "NOE, why are the cruise tickets cancelled?" I leaned back in my chair. "Oh, that. Yes, that." "Well," I said calmly, "since I wasn't invited anymore, I didn't see the point." She nearly screamed. "You did this just to ruin our trip." I shook my head. "No, I did it because I refused to pay for my own disrespect." My son finally understands. That evening Daniel came to my house alone. He looked uncomfortable. "Dad, Claire is really angry." I nodded. I figured. "But why cancel the trip?" I looked at him carefully. "Let me ask you something, son." "Okay. If you bought a gift for someone and they pushed you aside and took it, how would you feel?" Daniel lowered his head. "I guess disrespected." "Exactly," I said softly. For the first time he had no defense. A new beginning. A few weeks later I did something unexpected. I booked another cruise. But this time, only one ticket. Mine. No arguments. No expectations. Just peace. On the first evening of the trip, I stood on the ship's deck watching the sun slowly disappear into the ocean. The sky turned orange and purple. The water shimmered like glass. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. The phone call that changed everything. On the last night of the cruise, Daniel called me. "Dad, I'm sorry." His voice sounded different. Honest. "I should have stood up for you." I smiled. "It's all right, son." "No," he said, "it's not." There was a pause. Then he added quietly, "I realize now how much you've done for me." Coming home. When I returned home, Daniel and Claire came to visit. Claire looked nervous. She avoided eye contact for a while. Finally she said quietly, "I'm sorry, No. It wasn't perfect. But it was sincere. And sometimes sincerity is enough to begin healing." Moral of the story. Kindness is a beautiful quality, but kindness without boundaries invites disrespect. Respect yourself first, and others will learn how to respect you too.